Welcome to Pioneers in Payments, where payments experts share their insights. Now, here's our host, Donna Blum.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Pioneers in Payments. Today, I have the honor of speaking with Tony DeSanctis from Cornerstone Advisors. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you so much, Donna. Good to be here.
Well, I'm so glad you could join us. Really looking forward to just gaining some insights from you on all that's happening in the payments industry. But before we get started, would you mind sharing with our audience a little bit about yourself, your background in payments, and the work that you do at Cornerstone Advisors?
Sure. So I started my career at a company called MB&A, for those of us old enough to remember the old credit card company that was. Spent about 12 years there, and then about 3 years when Bank of America purchased them on that side as well. 2011, got an opportunity to go out and relaunch a credit card program and manage a debit card program at Bank of Hawaii. And then in 2017, came here to Cornerstone Advisors to help get the payments practice to the next level. I have just over the last couple of years taken on more of an education role. We have a payment school, a digital school, roundtables for all the C-suite level folks. And so my passion, if you go all the way back to my original college degree attempt, it was education. So I love talking about where things are going and how things are happening, but almost my entire career in the payment space, credit card, debit card, payments, just spend an inordinate amount of time in the payment space. Payments geek by definition, I guess.
That's great. I love payments geeks. That's what this podcast is all about, really, is talking with people who really love to talk about payments. And there's plenty to talk about right now.
You said it.
So really the purpose of this is to sort of distill down everything that's happening in the industry and to kind of leave our audience with a few sound bites, or things that are like best practices. If there's any confusion, maybe there's a little bit of analysis paralysis going on. What are some really good pieces of advice we can give them to help them to chart the path forward? So
Sure.
my first question is, in regards to all that's happening in the industry, what would you say is the greatest trend?
I think probably the greatest trend is what I would call, what I've historically called alternative rails, just being a card guy by definition, but it's diversity of payment options, right? So for years, ACH, wire, debit, credit, end of story, right? For the most part, you've got real-time payments through the clearinghouse. You've got FedNow, you've got Visa Direct, you've got MasterCard Send, stablecoin, along with other blockchain transaction types, Plaid integrations, which are using some of those rails, but I would still consider alternative rails, Cash App and other fintechs with their closed loop solutions. So what was historically a very sort of specific and niche market is really broadened out to be much more diverse in terms of the number of different ways people can move money. And scale-wise, it's still disproportional to the originals, but there's so many new options. It's super interesting to see where the next phase is going to go. I didn't even mention digital wallets, which is another one, right? So it's a laundry list at this point.
And it seems like in the United States, we just keep adding more payment rails and options, but all of the old ones are still available too, right? So it's just growing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest, so I've had this argument / discussion with a number of people who love to go, China, 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 look at how many faster payments and real-time payments there are in China. And the reality is, by and large, China was walking around with giant wads of cash, right? And so they went from cash to real-time payments because that's a logical progression. It solves almost all of the problems. The challenge in the US is we've solved different iterations of that problem throughout the last half a century, candidly, right? Whether it was ACH or cards or wires or all these other things have sort of been in place to solve those problems. So when you think about things like real-time payments or stable coins or things like that, the opportunity is much smaller than it was in China because it's not replacing wads of cash. It's like, how much better is real-time payment than a same-day ACH? It's almost a potato discussion at that point. It's not like potatoes and dirt. It's just it's so close together. It's the scale question that comes into play, which is how many of these things are going to get to enough scale to be viable long-term solutions.
Right. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so obviously, with all that's happening in the industry, there are both opportunities and challenges for organizations that process payments, right? Whether they're on the issuer side or the merchant side, um, challenges and opportunities. But let's hear your perspective on what is the greatest opportunity for these organizations.
So again, coming from the banking side and coming from the issuing side of the equation, I think honestly, the biggest opportunity is to invest in your revenue generating payments business at the level that it warrants. So the most obvious example I can use of this is Chime, who just released their S1 to go public. And essentially what they came back with was basically benchmark stats for the fact that 76% of their revenue as an organization is coming from interchange. And their average debit card customer is doing 54 transactions a month and doing $121 billion in spend on 8.6 million accounts. So they're not Chase, they're not Citi, they're not Bank of America. It's still a relatively small subset of the market, but because all they offer is debit, right? And credit builders sort of come along here in the last year or so, but because they focused on debit, they've really optimized that. And when you compare that to our Cornerstone benchmarks, for example, for our community institutions, that's somewhere north of 70 to 80% more in transactions and 70 to 80% more in interchange on a relative basis. So they're making debit way more profitable than our average client is. And I just think that's a huge opportunity to think about how we can invest in that space to get some of that, get some of that magic fintech's juice, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's great. Actually, we have a debit client that is making a decent amount of money on fees that using our fees engine, and yet they claim it's like having a money printer in-house. So great opportunity there.
That's part of, I think, honestly, Donna, that's part of the problem is that historically we just handed out debit cards and money just came in. It just sort of fell to us. And the competitive environment, if I assume we're going to get to the challenges, right? The competitive environment no longer, if I can jump ahead of your question, sorry, but the competitive environment no longer allows you to just, I'm going to use a Gen X reference, right? It's not Ron Popeil set it and forget it anymore. You can't just send out debit cards and let the money come a-flowing, right? You've got to talk about the value prop. You need to make sure you have a seamless experience. You've got to make sure that your digital engagement and digital wallet engagement is where it needs to be. You have to invest time, energy, and resources in driving that number. One of the things that was in the Chime S1 is they're spending $500 million a year in marketing. Now, most of our clients can't afford $500 million, but our clients aren't spending anywhere near that amount. Ron Shevlin's done some work that says $500 million in marketing spend would indicate that they were a $500 billion bank if you use similar ratios to how banks invest in marketing. So they are all in, pedal to the metal with the marketing dollars. And it's a lesson, not that any of us have $500 million to burn on debit card marketing, but we certainly should be investing more than we are today.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, and I think too what you said about the value proposition that you can't just deliver these debit cards and just sit on sit on your laurels waiting for money to come in. There really is a competitive marketplace, and so it is going to require you to differentiate yourself in your
Yeah, and
services.
all of these, right? If we take the merchant side of the equation, the merchant is much more interested in every other version that we talked about. ACH is cheaper, real-time payments is cheaper, clearinghouse is cheaper. It's all cheaper for the merchant, which means that the financial institution's at risk if they don't make the most of and reinforce the value prop of that product. So as a merchant, you're actually playing the other side of the equation, right? It's the most contentiously symbiotic relationship in the world that I can think of, which is you both need each other, you both love each other, but you both think you're getting the short end of the stick in the relationship. It's classic.
Frenemies.
There you go. Exactly.
All right. Well, that's great. So that's one of the biggest challenges. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add as other challenges, or is that the main one?
Well, the only thing I would say is I think that the disruption that's coming from the fintechs is a real challenge. So I've been tracking just 5 fintechs. So Affirm, Venmo, PayPal, SoFi, which I'm still calling a fintech, even though I know technically they're a bank. Don't at me. Cash App. I'm missing somebody. Oh, and Chime, because Chime just did their numbers, right? So that's 5 fintechs. Any idea how many debit cards they have in the marketplace today, if you had to venture a guess?
Oh, goodness. I have no clue.
50 million debit cards.
Wow.
So that puts them, right? If you just take those 5 companies, that puts them in like the top 10 of the country in terms of debit card issuers. Now, to be fair, they don't have primary relationships in most cases. They don't have the direct deposit and all the things we as bankers have tried to do over the years. But my answer to that would be they also didn't have 50 million debit cards 5 years ago, and look at where they're at today. So wake up, right? Make sure that you understand the risks that are coming. And I think that's another significant headwind. So those alternative networks and these other providers who want a piece of your interchange pie are probably the 2 biggest challenges that I see for our clients in that space, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So now this is my favorite part, my favorite question. So you're going to take all of your sum total of knowledge
Oh
and
boy.
try to narrow it down to your silver bullet piece of advice for organizations that process payments.
Okay. So sum total of knowledge could fit in half a glass of water, probably. So let's just start there. The other thing I would tell you is that, unfortunately, I don't know that there is a single silver bullet. If I have to sort of boil it down into one thing, it would be give your payments business the attention it deserves and needs in order to maintain its position as a viable income, specifically non-interest income stream for you as an organization. Because if Chime is spending $500 million to drive debit spend and you're spending $50,000 a year, we all know how that story is going to end. So you have to, we talk about the 5 I's, inform, incentivize, iterate. So don't be afraid to change things. Interface, make sure the experience is there. And then the 5th one, which is maybe the magic bullet, which is invest. Invest in growing this business, because if you don't invest in growing this business, it will not get there.
Yeah. I definitely think that most organizations really need to have be responding to the current market conditions, but have an eye towards the future. Like you
100%.
you have to be planning to, and you have to remain relevant as this industry evolves and changes over time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where we're going next, but I just did a video on, we've been screaming at our clients about top of mobile wallet for the last 8 years. And we now have to start talking about being top of agentic wallet, because that's going to be a thing here. Before you know it, people are going to be like, remember when nobody knew what an agentic wallet is? And everyone will have one sort of embedded in their chat GPT. and that's how they'll buy stuff. They won't be.
I'm not even sure what that is.
So let me give you a little background. So MasterCard, Visa, and PayPal specifically announced their agentic wallet capabilities. So what that means is the way AIs work today, in most cases, you type in words and ask it for something, and then it gives you an answer, right? Agentic AI is a scenario where you actually give the instructions to the AI, and it goes out into the world, typically the digital world, but the world, and does things for you. So, hey, ChatGPT, go book me a flight to California on these dates. Now it's these tools from Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal. The idea would be you literally would say, ChatGPT, order me a brand new pair of Johnson & Murphy brown cap toe shoes, size 9 wide, and have them delivered to my house and use my Visa card. That's the end of the transaction. That's it. That's the entire shopping experience. There's no scrolling. There's no filling out forms. There's no browsing. There's nothing.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
That's the next phase. Let's be honest, right? That's 3 to 5 years away, most likely. So it's not something that's happening tomorrow, but that's where it's headed. And we've fell so far behind on mobile wallet. We've fallen so far behind on things like contactless and other things. We have an opportunity to get in front of this as much as possible, especially with MasterCard and Visa trying to be at the forefront of this. So I think it's a huge opportunity for sure.
Well, that's pretty exciting. I'll have to keep my eye on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, Tony, I just want to make sure that our audience knows how they can get in touch with you maybe or learn more about the services that you provide through Cornerstone. So
yeah, absolutely. Certainly you can and I'll give you my email address. We can put it in the comments. Folks can reach out, or if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I spend way too much time out there, candidly, talking about payments. So if you want to hear what's going on, as you can tell, I'm not shy about my opinions and thoughts on things. We love to write our sister brand with Cornerstone is Gonzo Banker, and we like to be gonzo about things. We really want to call things as we see them. We have a great payments practice. Since I've moved over to education, we've upgraded quite a bit. Jessica Pinkston and the team over there do a lot of great work with not only cards, which is obviously where my background is, but treasury management and corporate payments as well. So we have a lot to sort of bring to bear there. I don't know that there's much in the payment space we can't help you with. So yeah, definitely feel free to reach out.
okay, fantastic. And we will put some information in the description of this video as well, a link to the website and your email address, and maybe also your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Tony, thank you so much for your time today and sharing some of your insights. It's going to be fun to watch the future and how AI is going to play a bigger role in payments in the future.
Exciting times. Exciting times indeed.
Thank you again, Tony. It's been great talking with you, and I want to thank everybody for watching. Bye now.
Take care.